but our
Welcome
regular
on
one
in.
is still after Christmas.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into, yes, Chasing Points. Get excited for another episode coming at y'all. I am joined tonight by Thomas Tipple. FF, what's going on, Thomas? How you doing, man?
I'm actually rested. After oversleeping for the start and sit show this week, my body decided you can no longer function on 2 hours of sleep. You must go to bed, and so I'm here. I'm awake.
Hey, sounds good to me. At least you're here, man. I know you didn't make it to the other show, but I'm glad that you got some sleep so you can make it to Chasing Points. We've got a killer week coming at y'all. And Jordan, who missed the last show 2 weeks ago, is back with us again this week. Jordan,
Yep.
How you doing, man?
Good to be back. I'm great. I'm living well. Well rested, well fed, and no surprise Tridelt alumni dinners that I don't have a choice about.
Now,
So we're back.
prior to the show, we were talking about your Christmas shopping, right, and how you're doing all that today. So, are you too worn out from the Christmas shopping? Are you going to be able to handle the conversations that we have coming at people here in the next few minutes?
Always, it's what I do. Rapid fire.
Right.
Let's do this. Teflon.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So, this is Chasing Points. What we're going to be doing is breaking down some of the matchups from today, some of the fantasy outputs, some of the surprising things, and some of the not so surprising things. And I want to start it out with probably the biggest outlier. And I know when you sit there and you take projections, right? You should never have like hot takes on projections, essentially, because most of the time you're going to end up being wrong. And Tom Brady, for me, I had him projected at 48 attempts this week. Now you think 48 attempts, and you're like, damn, that's a lot. That's a hell of a lot. That's way too many attempts for Tom Brady. But I believe in 70% of the matchups thus far, going into week 12, he had 70% of them had over 40 passing attempts.
Yep.
He's at 46 in 3 of them, 3 out of the 10 matchups going into this one. So, I mean, I didn't think that 48 was that outlandish. I mean, we have, they combined for, 129.3, I believe, plays run per game between Tampa Bay and the Colts. The Colts team has a very good overall run defense. So I didn't see Leonard Fournette or Ronald Jones being utilized as much in this offense. I thought it was going to be a pass-heavy game. And I'm in a guillotine league. And I'm making it in the guillotine league. We're getting close to it. And I decided to roll out both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and put, Leonard Fournette on the bench. Leonard Fournette went off. He smashed.
You don't do that.
And Tom Brady only attempted, I believe it was 34 passes in this game. I had Rob Gronkowski ranked very, very high in my rankings this week. And, he had a game himself. But the real news was Leonard Fournette. I mean, he smashed this week. He had 4 touchdowns. He only had 4 touchdowns on the entire season. And he had 4 touchdowns in this matchup. He had 3 on the ground, 1 through the air. I mean, this was an impressive output by Leonard Fournette. Is this something where we're seeing playoff Lenny come back? I mean, 100 yards rushing and 31 yards receiving. You're going to see come back throughout the one-off in an outlier week for Leonard Fournette.
He was the running back 12 in PPR. Like, I don't know why this is like, look, he wasn't like scoring like Ronald Jones vultured him before, but the receptions still money. 7, 6, 8, 3, 2, 6, 4, 3, 3, 4, 5. He's catching the ball. He's their primary pass catcher, period, out of the backfield. And as for his attempts, it was high. It wasn't his season high, but Buckner went down in this game for a period of time, and he came out. And once he went out of the game, they attacked the middle. Buckner came back, but he didn't look the same. And then the last touchdown for Fournette was just, it looked like the Colts didn't have it in them anymore. At the end of the game, he ran it in, which is great, but they got short field most of the game. Right? They had the one turnover was at the very end, the Hail Mary at the end of the game. So get that out of there. But multiple picks, a fumble, there was muff punts, right? There was short field all over the place. So Fournette was able to do it. And at 5.8 a clip, almost 6 a clip, you're going to see this from like their schedule. Atlanta, Buffalo, New Orleans, Carolina, and then, oh my God, the Jets. He's going to be an RB1 moving forward rest of the season. I don't think this was anytime a running back scores 4 touchdowns is probably an outlier. right?
What
So
are
of
his
course,
calls?
in saying that he's an outlier, but this is kind of his usage is what I expected.
So of that, let's take a look at the schedule there, and we are looking at also one cold weather game too at Jets in January. They got Buffalo at home, Atlanta's at Dome, home in New Orleans in a Dome, at Carolina on Christmas day after Christmas, and then they get Carolina at home again. So that's where Leonard Fournette has been banged up in the past, typically when it starts getting cold, and that's why we came up with playoff Lenny last year. It'd be really interesting to see if he can sustain this. And to your point about the receptions, his catch rate is crushing. He's looking like DeAndre Swift's father in many ways, as that dude, that we knew coming out of LSU. So good for him. But you're absolutely right. He's just crushing.
He was an obvious ad, right? He was one of the most glaring, obvious trade targets, like contending teams trading a 22-1 for him. Should have been no question.
Yep.
A player we're going to talk about in a bit, I think, if Chase lets us, is Elijah Mitchell. I traded Mitchell in a second for Fournette, and obviously Mitchell still did well.
Sure.
Right? But it's kind of looking like a wash at this point. Damn. But yeah, no, Fournette
It's
dope.
Yep.
No, I like that. And let's go ahead. Let's segment into Elijah Mitchell, who's playing right now. And I mean, he's having hell of a game himself. I believe he has a touchdown. He has at least 130 rushing yards, I believe.
27 for 133 and 1, 5 receptions on 6 targets for 35 yards. That's what you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, you want to know why he has 5 receptions, right? Like, it's because the Minnesota Vikings are 25th overall in the dump-off containment efficiency score, the DOSE score. You guys can find it over there at fantasyintervention.com/DOCE. It tells you when you can play pass catch and running backs. And Minnesota is sitting over there. They played 14 pass catch and running backs that have qualified. However, it only counted for a 13.0 score, which means that the pass catch and running backs they played have not been very good. And they're still allowing 9.5 fantasy points per game to the pass catching running backs as a whole. I mean, this was something as to where you could see any team that's going to face Minnesota that has a pass catching back. You can play pass catching backs up against them and feel great. Or if your running back might not be a pass catcher, they will perform in the receiving game overall. So I like this situation. I mean, Elijah Mitchell being utilized in this role, but I don't know if this is something that we can project going forward that he's going to be utilized in, which is, catching passes out of the backfield.
Sure.
Well, I believe 2 of these receptions were not out of the backfield. I know for sure one of them he was at wide receiver. They played him out at wide receiver. I know one of them was a screen. I believe one of them was a Texas. Most of these are sit-out routes. So these aren't just like swing passes or things like that. These are legitimate routes for a running back. So I think
he'll alternate with
Debo. Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson's healthy right now, and he has 3 plays with the ball. 1 reception, 2 carries for 5 yards. Juszczyk has 2 receptions for 37, but they're always going to throw a ball or 2 to Juszczyk. It's Mitchell's backfield. Yeah, I think this is his. I think he's earning the passing down work. I think a couple of receptions it was in his range of outcomes. Now projecting 5, I think that's a little nuts. But Debo's hurt. He went out. He's got a groin injury.
He looked fine on the sidelines. He's not coming back in this game, but he was chilling on the sidelines, hanging out with his buddies, smiling, having a good time. I think this is more of a game type situation.
That's what bothers me. It's a close game, right? Very close game still. I think it was only 1 score when he went out, and it stayed 1 score. Points. And he was ruled out immediately. So it's something to watch, right? Especially on a player who's been hurt before. So if Debo's out now too, Mitchell's workload is going to increase. So
I like that take. I mean, Jordan, do you have anything else to add to this Elijah Mitchell?
No, I mean, he's clearly the lead candidate, but just do your homework, because Kyle Shanahan, if you can predict what he's going to do, then, you're a better man than me. I just kind of avoid his situations unless there's a bell cow. If you get Elijah Mitchell, go for it.
Well, here's the thing. Elijah Mitchell in games where he's played more than 60%, outside of 1, he's been the primary ball carrier. There's the Arizona game, which I can't remember. There was that game, which was rough. That was the Trey Lance game. Got week 1,
That's
19
right.
carries. Week 2, 17 carries. Led the team.
Mhm.
18, 18, 8 in the next Arizona game, but had 5 receptions. 27 carries. Didn't play the Jacksonville game, and then 27 carries again today. This isn't a committee. This
Okay.
is Elijah Mitchell's going to get the ball 20 times. He's going to touch the ball 20 times a game. Sermon was carted off the field on a special teams play, so any hopes of that being a thing is out the window. Again, Wilson active, 3 touches. Juszczyk 2 touches. This is Mitchell's backfield.
All
I
right,
don't think it's
so
even close.
let's hop on to another player real quick. And Jordan, I'm gonna go to you first on this next one because I have like my category for like players, NFL players, right?
Mhm.
Where I love them and then I hate them. I have like DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, those guys I love. Like those are the players that I've had since day one. And then
Yeah.
I have like, the Michael Pittmans who I like really like. Marquise Brown is another one who I like really like, but I'm not really into. Like I don't need them on my team, but I really want them on my team.
Yep.
And then I have like the players like Aaron Jones, where I'm cool with having them, but I don't really care if they're on my roster or not. Like, it's whatever. If
Not
they fall to
must-haves.
me, yeah. If they fall to me, in like the draft, like if their ADP's falling and I decide, oh man, like I can grab this guy this round, I'm taking him.
Got it.
Then I have players like Joe Mixon, right? And Joe Mixon are players that I don't really like, but if they fall like a full round or two, I'm hopping on them. And then we have, like the Jalen Ragers and the Dave Montgomerys who I, don't want anything to do with.
0.
So I can't stand them. They make me sick to look at. They could fall 5 rounds and I still would not draft them.
Mhm.
Now, Joe Mixon, right? He's kind of changing my mind a little bit. He's getting a little bit warmer. He's getting more towards the Aaron Jones tier of
He really
players.
is.
And today, like he smashed it today. Like he crushed. He was the second leading running back, I believe, on the week. 165 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. He saw 4 receptions and 4 targets for -2 yards, which I don't know how you get 4 receptions for -2 yards, but he did it.
One of that he lost 3 yards on a play where the ball was being bobbled by a defender. It was actually about to get picked off.
Yeah, and he grabbed
came
it.
out of
Okay.
nowhere, grabbed it, and lost 3 yards. But still, catching the other
But
balls.
that's
and not
3
gaining
yards.
is
Like
weird.
that means that he still had to lose yards on probably at least 2 other ones. Either way, that was a great play by him. By the way, he kept the interception out of the defender's hands. That was insane.
It was
I've never
unreal.
seen a play like that before. Although he should have just hit it out, instead of trying to catch it. But either way, regardless, he made a great play and thus far on the week, 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. He hasn't really been, utilized in the receiving game as much as we would like to see, but obviously seeing 4 targets and getting all 4 of them, that's indicative of what could end up happening.
Mhm.
Last week had a great game without the receiving work as well. So moving forward, Joe Mixon. Is he somebody that is a must start every single week, regardless of the matchup? Obviously, up against the Steelers, great defense. He still performed. Or is this something as to where, like, hey, maybe if Cincinnati isn't winning, they don't utilize Joe Mixon as much, and it could take away from his potential workload? Or is he, regardless, like hands down, must start every single week, lock him in, winning you championships? What do you got, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, this year, yes. Yeah. He can be frustrating in a sense of when they need to come back, but they've been in overtime games, but he's been getting the work. And one of the best teams that I have out there, he's my RB2, and it's just stealing at that point. So, like, he's one of those guys that, to your point, a lot of people kind of like, I'm done with this guy, but he is paying off. So I'm ride or die with Joe Mixon on the fantasy level only.
Thomas?
25 years old, big contract in a top offense, averaging 19.6 points per game. If you're sitting him on the bench because of any matchup, I want to know what running back is still alive that you're playing over him. He's unreal. And just look at the last couple of games, right? This isn't just like an out of nowhere thing. They're winning when they give him the rock as much as they are, right? 32.3 points, 24.3 points, 28 points, 25.1. 26.3. He had a 12 in there against Baltimore. That game was weird. That game was out of hand. That game was out of hand early, but Mixon's a smash, right? And it's not just for this year. You want him next year, and you probably want him the year after. I remember talking about this on the Friday we did the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. We had Drew from Bulletproof Discord, and we were talking about how this this era of superstar running back could change how we view running backs at the age apex. Mixon isn't just like falling off, losing his athleticism at 25, and that offense is getting better. He's a buy candidate, not a sell candidate in Dynasty. He's only 25 and he's already got the bag. Go and get him. That offense isn't just going to magically be bad. Zach Taylor might be bad, but right now that team's making him look really good.
Well, let's go ahead and hop onto the other side of this game. I want one more running back that I want to talk about, and that's Nausea Harris. Nausea Harris has been carrying, fantasy teams. However, over this week at least, and then last week I believe he's still relevant last week, but he hasn't been, what we saw, the superstar that we saw at least in the first 2 weeks of the season. I mean, he was hitting 20 points every single game, and over the past 4 games, he's hit less than 20 points, although he has been serviceable in 3 of the last 4. This past one, he only saw 8 touches up against the Bengals. 8 carries up against the Bengals, and then saw 5 targets, only got 3 receptions up against a team that's normally subpar up against pass-catching running backs in the Bengals. Is Nausea Harris something that you need to keep an eye on and be a little bit more cautious with moving forward? Or is this just a blip, like, on the radar where it's like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a I don't know, just a little temporary, I guess, sidetrack to where we're getting our way towards the fantasy championship, just a side road where he veered off to, or do we need to keep an eye on it?
Well, Najee Harris's whole thing was needed volume. Like, as a player, I don't think Harris offered you anything particularly special. He can catch the ball. He runs all right. He doesn't create the way that you hope for a superstar. He's basically Pittsburgh's new James Conner with the way the offense works. And he needs volume on an offense that's not the best. It's not a great offense. Big Ben limits them. And today couldn't even really hit him in the flat. So you're obviously playing him every week, but you got to realize that this offense is just bad. So unless he gets those massive receptions in those 2-minute drills or in scores, you're probably looking at 15 to 17 points per game, which that's not even bad. But the superstar top 5 games have got to come when he gets like massive receiving work.
So we're not going to regress and hit that rookie wall. So typically with running backs, right? And I'm not saying this happens with every single running back, but we've seen, historically, running backs tend to wear down towards the end of the season as rookies because they go through their season, right? They have their season-long stuff. Then they go in and they got to work out for the combine. They got to go to all these meetings. They have their pro days that they got to work on. Like, they have stuff they have to do, and then they have to learn the playbook, and they have to get in shape for the rookie training camps, and then they have the regular training camps. And all of a sudden, you're talking about a rookie running back is literally working year round when everybody else gets a break, at least at the NFL level, for a couple months. He's constantly been working and pushing. So are you guys worried at all? And I'm going to start out with Jordan on this one. Are you guys worried at all that he could be hitting kind of like a rookie wall, essentially, to where like he might not be, progressing, he might be regressing, in terms of value and production moving forward?
No, I think that wall that they're literally and figuratively putting him behind is the carcass of Ben Roethlisberger at this point.
And the offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, the team's like on the fringe of competing because of the expanded playoffs. He is going to hit a rookie wall. Just adjusting to the duration of the season. Everybody's going to have an interesting wall this year with a longer season. Call it what you will. One game, I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not concerned about his value. Like, he's somebody that if I had, a Mixon type player or somebody, that's the wrong example, but I'd be a buyer on Najee Harris if somebody didn't think they were going to get the juice out of him going down the stretch here for next year. That's somebody I'd invest on, but I'm not concerned about him.
He has Baltimore, Minnesota, Tennessee, Kansas City. He's going to be fine for you the rest of the playoffs.
Just fine.
And you're not trading him away. The only problem with Najee Harris hitting a wall is the team that he's on is probably going to hit a wall. And
that division is just impossible right now.
Right. But it's also, you're going to give any running back damn near 30 touches a game for an entire season, right? He was already a workhorse at Bama, right? And he's not the super athlete. Things are going to happen, and games like today are going to happen. he's been the most consistent running back. So there's that. He's only had 2 games now where he hasn't hit 10 PPR. There's only 2 games where he hasn't hit 15 PPR points. It's outstanding. I'm not panicked about him, but history isn't kind to this sort of thing. Don't overreact on Najee Harris today.
Sure.
All right, so let's move on to the quarterback situation, because the quarterback situation this week was ugly. I mean, we're talking about
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
2 weeks in a row. It's been bleak.
It wasn't good. I mean, we have maybe 5 or 6 quarterbacks that were actually worth playing this week that hit that 20-point fantasy threshold, and obviously, we want to see that 20-point threshold. Normally, like at least earlier on in the season, we were seeing 12, 15, 18 quarterbacks hitting that. And as of late, it has not been, the same situation. So as we move closer to the fantasy playoffs, are we looking to acquire somebody that's going to do it? Or does this mean that it's going to be easier, to stream quarterbacks moving forward versus trying to hold on to one?
Interesting. I mean, I actually I dumped Russell Wilson for Carson Wentz this week in my home dynasty league, and that paid off. But I'm not worried about it. I think Lamar is going to put up 20 tonight. Forget off the top who plays tomorrow night. I'm just drawing a blank.
Washington.
Okay, we can probably avoid that one.
Seattle, the guy you dropped.
Yeah, I think Russ will get there tomorrow. It is interesting. I mean, if it's super flex, obviously, go and get a streamer for that second QB if you need it. But don't be too locked in either if you need it, the production from somewhere else, no matter where it's going to come from. Like dumping Russell Wilson for Wentz, which I should have done weeks ago.
Yeah, Carson Wentz got there. He ended up having 21 fantasy points. He got those 3 touchdowns in, and none of them went to Michael Pittman.
Yep. And a cheap pick at the end. So,
yeah.
Should have been at the 25 threshold, maybe. So,
yep.
So here's the thing with the quarterbacks, right? Is I know people say like the kicker shouldn't be in fantasy because you can't predict them. Well, you haven't really been able to predict a lot of quarterback output in fantasy this year either. Like it's been all over the place from Mike White's and Josh Johnson putting up 30s when no one expected it. Dak and Mahomes can like putting up less than 10 more times than you want them to. I think that
Burrow's in there too.
Yeah, Burrow, he's had some off games. He has 16-point. Lawrence has been bad, right? I
think Brady's had a bad game.
It's the state of quarterbacks right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just what it is. I think you just have to take it for what it is. There's just an odd stretch. There's nothing. I don't think there's a pattern to it. Even Josh Allen's quarterback 1 week right now and 4-point passing touchdowns was a weird week.
I think Tom Brady's only thrown touchdown was to Leonard Fournette. So I don't think he was in there.
Today was his low game then.
It's just weird.
I will bring up real quick Trevor Lawrence. So Trevor Lawrence, I actually predicted that he would have 50 rushing yards and 250 passing yards. I felt short by I think 11 rushing yards and 22 passing yards. But they talked about it this past week, and it became a big conversation with the coaches behind the scene, and there was a bunch of drama going on about how they wanted to use Trevor Lawrence more in the RPO. So I guess Urban Meyer didn't want to end up ruining Trevor Lawrence, give him a chance to get hurt using the RPO more often. But earlier in the season, we saw him use it, and he was a lot more efficient. Now we're seeing him use it this week. I'm not saying he was more efficient, but he did give you 17 fantasy points or 17-plus fantasy points. Is this something where Trevor Lawrence, we're starting to see enough from him in Dynasty to where we want to try to acquire him possibly at a low point because he's there, he's close, but he's not all the way there? Or are we just going to let him sit on somebody else's roster and hope that he drops even further?
Well, I mean, he's one of the top prospects since he walked on the scene in Clemson. I don't know why we're just doing away with him. Like, why that's even a conversation. Look at that entire franchise. If you thought he was going to walk in and be like, oh, it's Clemson again. No. Urban Meyer is out there choosing to use Jamal Agnew and Tavon Austin instead of his actual better players.
We can't now. Agnew's hurt.
Tavon Austin caught a touchdown pass today.
Oh, I know. That was so terrible because I joked about it earlier. I was like, watch. Tavon Austin's going to sit there and actually get a touchdown over Laviska Shenault. I said it on this morning's show, and guess what happened?
The line
Tavon
is
Austin's
bad.
a player
The
that makes me
receiving
look up how
core,
old I am.
I know the receiving core is bad, right? The running back room's not fantastic. James Robinson's gonna be an RB1 again this year with Etienne out. Is he? Amazing what happens when you take an average athlete and take away their volume. How that doesn't happen. But that whole team is being run miserably. Of course you're going after Trevor Lawrence. He was like, again, he was quarterback Jesus from his first year in Clemson. You're not just bailing on him now. He's looked troublesome though. Has not rushed for 40 yards in a game yet. That's
39 this week.
I know, but he hasn't hit it. So that's very concerning for me. Very concerning.
Jordan, do you have anything else to add to that?
I mean, I haven't seen it with Trevor Lawrence yet in the NFL. I haven't seen his pop moment. But then again, it's like, all right, okay, to your point, where are those extra points, fantasy points, going to come from? And until they get it on the roster, I'm not seeing it because they're not giving him the place to make up with it with his legs. The only place he's going to make up those fantasy points is with his legs by stealing a rushing touchdown. So do it him what you will. Get him in the offseason. I wouldn't touch him this year.
All right, so let's move on to wide
in
receiver.
the offseason, if you wait for
end of the year.
If you see, here's the thing: if a lot of people's trade deadlines is this week with everything being pushed back for championship week, if you're going to go for him now. Like if you wait for the offseason, they're going to draft somebody. They're going to sign someone. For the most part, teams that have him and are willing to trade him are teams that are good, because a bad team's not trading away Lawrence for less than what they would have traded to get him. So right now, if Lawrence is sitting on a good roster's bench, then you go and get him. I wouldn't wait, because then it's they might turn it around. Maybe Urban Meyer gets let go. Right now, all of a sudden the view of him changes, and second year hope. So I think if you're going to go get him now, if you wait to the offseason, it could be too late.
All right, so we've seen at the wide receiver position, every single week thus far, outside of I think week 9. We've seen multiple wide receivers get over 25 fantasy points. It's been explosions from Cooper Kupp and Deebo Samuel, so on and so forth. But this week we only had one wide receiver. We only had one wide receiver hit over 25 fantasy points, unless you consider Cordell Patterson a wide receiver, which, like Sleeper and whatnot have that designation for him. However, Jalen Waddle was the only one to do it this week. And honestly, it was a pretty quiet week overall. I'm looking through the stats right now. We had a few players hit 23 and 22, but for the majority of the wide receivers, there wasn't any kind of massive explosions outside of Waddle. So let's talk about Waddle real quick. Is this something that we should see moving forward, where he is dynamic enough to make it happen, and it just took to a little bit to manifest? Is this something as to where Waddle always had it, but might have not seen the right opportunities? I mean, the Carolina defense is a good defense. They're great up against wide receivers. So moving forward, is Jalen Waddle a must start every single week? Is he matchup dependent? I mean, because obviously if he was matchup dependent, then you probably would have sat him this week. What's going on in your thought process with Jalen Waddle? Jordan.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I mean, he's not my wide receiver 1. So, with that out of the way, I think he's an every week start. Because who are you going to pull over him? I mean, you could maybe bump him out of wide receiver, but you're going to start him at flex, most likely, unless you're in an 8-10 man league. But if you're in a 12 or 14 man league, you're starting him. I think every week going out.
He's got the Giants, he's got the bye, he's got the Jets, New Orleans, who are struggling, and then Tennessee, right, for the rest of the year. I don't see why Jalen Waddle isn't getting the same respect as Smith, Bateman, Elijah Moore recently, which we saw how well that worked out today when, their actual starter got into the game. Right. And the other receiver, those other top receivers that were drafted, obviously Chase is in a league of his own, right? He's untouchable. But why can't we look at Waddle like Bateman and yes, he is. Yes.
In this class, for sure.
Just in general. Why not, Chase? Why are you looking at me like that? Because he's had a couple of off weeks.
We'll get back to that. We'll hop on that one next.
Waddle's a guy that should be put in, because let's just say for kicks. They don't bring Tua back, and they do go and get Watson. Now you have Watson with Waddle. And Tua hasn't even looked as bad as people thought he might. And he's putting up 10, 11 targets, 8 targets, 13 targets, 10 targets, 6 targets. Right?
They're building that chemistry back.
You're not getting that from a lot of other receivers. And it took one play for him to bust out. That's who he is. They're actually using Waddle the way you're supposed to use Jalen Waddle. Short game, let him pop off. He's not a deep ball go-getter. Right, and I think that's where the Raiders had messed up with Ruggs before he did his
I
thing.
was just about to say that. Great point.
Yeah, because this is how they were used. But I think Waddle's a smash. It's not even like he's a smash play.
Yeah,
I like that. And he's seeing the targets, he's seeing the looks, and for me, it's not really match dependent. It's more like who's healthy, on the Dolphins because they don't have any other receivers right now.
Yeah, he's hitting his ceiling. What we all wanted.
Top 5 in receptions in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, right now.
Yeah, I mean it's incredible.
That's
something
over
that you obviously want to have. And honestly, I feel like you missed the train. If you're going to try and get Waddle on your roster, you kind of missed the train after this.
Yeah,
week. Like there's no way you're acquiring him.
Be predictive, not reactive. Right? If you're afraid to miss on a player, right? It's like Tony, right? Yeah. So when Tony had his couple of games and everyone was ready to I was so wrong on the process. The guy's just an absolute baller because he had 2 games and people were reactive and they went and they paid up for him and it hasn't paid off. You can do the same thing and be like, yeah, well, that didn't work out with Tony. But if you did the same thing with Waddle, then you're happy. So you want to be predictive, not reactive. If you miss once in a while, who cares?
Yeah, Kadarius Toney's still going to be a stud once he's healthy.
Just a side rant.
Yeah,
Kadarius Toney's going to be a stud when he plays. So let's go ahead and hop on to Jamar Chase, who once again did not produce this week, left you wanting more. And this is now the 3rd or 4th straight week of under 50 receiving yards. I mean, he's seeing the targets and stuff, but Joe Burrow's not accurate when targeting him, and he's also dealt with a lot of drops as well. This is something as to where like teams are keying in on Jamar Chase. I mean, we're seeing 3 receptions, 6 receptions, 3 receptions over the past 4 games. Over the past 5 games, he had 4. And honestly, he was never seen an immense amount of volume in terms of receptions. He was seeing deep shot opportunities. He was seeing a lot of air yards, right? He was seeing a lot of, unrealized air yards, essentially. And it was something as where he was never really getting a ton of volume in terms of receptions. Now, he was seeing targets, and the targets were great. The target premium was through the roof. But is he something that you can rely on every single week? Because, I mean, we sit back and we look at the matchups that he's had and the matchups that he's produced. I mean, the Jets, Cleveland, Minnesota, like Detroit, these aren't great overall teams up against the wide receiver position, Green Bay. And now that he's starting to see a few tougher matchups, we're not seeing the production.
Well, I think he didn't have anyone drawing his coverage, and now T. Higgins is showing why T. Higgins was never a panic sell, and he was definitely a buy. Because T. Higgins is unreal. The game script is out of hand immediately. And
Mixon game.
If you're disappointed in Jamar Chase and you don't think that he's all that in a bag of potato chips, I want to read off just one wide receiver's numbers before this week, and I just want you to take a guess on who it was. Wide receiver 29, 27, 36, 16, 48, 7, 23, 18, 2, 17. Take a guess. Anyone?
Son Elijah Moore.
Nope.
I don't know.
Stephon Diggs.
Diggs. Damn it.
So if you're worried about Chase, you should be worried about Diggs. But no, because he's a rookie and he dealt with drops because of a couple games where they handed the ball off to Mixon for a couple of weeks, I'm not worried about Chase. You play Chase. In any game, he can pop off like bananas. Chase and Burrow combined for 24 PPR points today.
You can pop off like bananas?
Chill. Yeah.
I know a guy who traded.
Bananas, come on.
I know a guy who sent off Diggs for Chase a couple of weeks ago. I know a guy.
But that's what I mean, though. So, sorry. Go ahead, Jordan. Say that again.
Nothing. I'm just being sarcastic. I said I know a guy who traded away Diggs a couple of weeks ago for Jamar Chase.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Look,
No guy.
it's if you're worried about a really elite player week to week, fantasy football is going to put you in a grave early. You play your great players, and sometimes they score, and sometimes they lay an egg, and you're just trying to win in the aggregate. That's all you're doing.
Yep.
For every time Chase doesn't do well, you get like some random wide receiver you never would have thought to have played, born sitting on your bench, and it's like, well, I suck at this. It's just how it works, man. No one bats 1,000. You play Chase every week.
Well, let's talk about Bourne real quick. You know, Kendrick Bourne is somebody that if you follow Trophy Smack's content side, right? The Smack Zone, Daddy's Home, aka
Shout out,
Mike
Mike.
Fiala. Yeah, he actually predicted that Kendrick Bourne would have a massive week. You know, he wrote about the guys that you must start. And if you guys actually go to trophysmack.com, if you're watching the show, hold on. If you're watching the show, you can actually see this title belt right here. This thing is legit. This is from Trophy Smack. This thing is heavy as hell. You got the ring, Thomas, right? And you can actually customize this. You can actually put who won. Like you can have like the winning plates and everything here. It's totally customizable. But go to trophysmack.com. If you guys use promo code DHHRING for Trophy Smack, you'll get a free ring with the purchase of either a belt or a trophy. And actually, I'm getting a trophy for one of our leagues. And we're going to get the trophy that's it has like the base to it. And then on top, you have like this bobblehead, right? And you could dress up like Batman, Superman. You could do like an army dude. You could do like a doctor. And then you send in like a picture of your face. And they make your face into that. So then every single time that you have somebody win, you get this like, you know, this platform. But then you can keep the bobblehead. It's really fucking cool. So
nice.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. And so you keep the bobblehead and you just, you know, you trade the trophy around with a different bobblehead every year. And the bobblehead's like, you know, $20, $30 or something like that to replace it.
I want to do that for our last place trophy.
That'd be cool. Dude, have like a girl in like a tutu or something. Now, but if you guys go to trophysmack.com, use DHH ring, you can get a free ring with the purchase of a trophy or belt. Make sure the ring is in the cart when you go to purchase. That's the only way they can actually, you know, get discounted. But anyways, back to it. Mike Fiala over there at Trophy Smack. If you go to the Smack Zone on trophysmack.com, Mike Fiala predicted that Kendrick Bourne would have a massive game, and he did. He had like 60 yards, over 60 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. I mean,
the one play was sick.
It was when he stayed in bounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
so
beautiful.
Sick.
It was a masterpiece. You know, is Kendrick Bourne somebody that is somebody that you have to have in your roster moving forward, or is this going to be just, you know, the same thing that we've dealt with the Patriots backfield for the past 10 years? Is this kind of like what we're dealing with the wide receivers now?
You be careful, Chase, because you start talking about Stevenson like that, and Twitter will come at you. Oh, God, don't get me started on that guy. Oh my God,
but had remarkable years.
Bourne, no, I don't care.
Yeah. Yep,
he's a great wide receiver. 31. There's
that's a rosterable wide receiver.
There's 672,421 wide receiver potential wide receiver threes in the NFL. I'd rather not. Too many is the point. And I just don't want to play him hoping he does this. Unless, again, you can have like 12 guys on either IR or bye week. So maybe you have to, but I need to have him on my. I don't need to have him on my roster. I could drop him next week and I'd be okay.
There are worse people to have on your roster, but he's
it's like
go ahead.
3 points, 5 points, 21, just under 11, 7, 15, not bad. 5, 6, 24, 8, and then 24. If he scores, happy. If not, whatever.
Yep, boom bust.
I'm okay not having him.
All right, let's hit one.
Can I talk about Ramondre Stevenson for a second? Can I just? Can I just?
Is this because you're not on Twitter right now, so people can't yell at you?
Yeah. Honestly, I might I'm gonna manually clip this. Okay, bang, this so I can put it up. Stevenson's not a buy low. Stop it. I'm good. His run was fantastic. They tried to they were trying to tackle Stevenson running down the field. One guy literally dapped him with his shoulder. Oh, he's fantastic at staying on his feet. They didn't try to tackle him.
Thomas,
And
you do realize that we're primarily a podcast. Nobody could see you shoving your face into your mic over and over again.
They tried to tap him to the ground. Like Harris is
ramming the microphone.
Everybody's gonna be listening to the show on the podcast version of this, and they're just gonna hear like the mic ruffling around and be like, "What?"
Well,
what is
that's
happening
the
right
sound.
now?
That's the sound the Titans made trying to tackle Stevenson. That's how soft it was. The man had 9 carries for 46 yards, most of them on that one run. He had 4.6 fantasy points because he had one target because Bolden's the pass catcher. He's not. He needs an injury and them not having a third down back. His big game was 20 carries. He had 2 touchdowns and he caught 4 balls. I'm happy for him. I'm old enough to remember how the Patriots use a backfield. If you're trading second-round picks for him right now, I think that's irresponsible.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to one more wide receiver. Then we have the tight end position. Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson had himself a game on 3 targets. This feels like it's a normal thing. And I was never a Van Jefferson fan, but I'm coming around. Because he's seen the opportunities downfield. And although Odell Beckham had the big one, Van Jefferson still had himself a week.
Van Jefferson's was bigger. He had 76,
I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
He had 3 receptions for 93 yards and a score.
And it was one of them, the 76-yard touchdown.
Okay, so he did have a big one as well. Sorry, I missed the actual play itself, I guess. I just saw the 3 for 93.
9 targets and a bunch of drops to go with it, though. So,
Well, they were contested to an extent from the ones that I saw. But, I mean, I don't think they would count as drops. They were contested balls. Either way, is Van Jefferson somebody that you want on your rosters moving forward? Is he somebody that you might want to flex in from week to week, depending on how the matchup is? When it's going to be competitive and Stafford's going to have to pass. Is Stafford's health a concern for y'all? Because he did not look right this week.
Well, as for needing to play him, 7, 6, 7, 7, and then 9. So the targets are great. The problem is 4.
They're similar to Jamar Chase.
3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and 3. If you ever compare Jamar Chase to Van Jefferson,
I feel like I'm looking at the same stat line. I'm looking at the same.
Oh, they're the same player. They're the same player. Want to do a bet for the rest of the season?
No.
For a quadruple hot wing?
No. What? No. Oh, hell no. We're not doing that again.
Yeah, exactly.
One chip challenge.
I don't bet, Thomas.
Well, not after last time. Hey, this would have been the week for you to win that, by the way. But look, Van Jefferson's a fine player, and yeah, you can. I'd be more comfortable with Van Jefferson, Kendrick Bourne. I'll tell you that much. But I don't want to play either of them.
Correct.
All right, so let's move on to the tight end position. Rob Gronkowski looked like his old self, but the leader for the tight end position. Are you ready? Jack Doyle.
Former top 5
Doyle
tight end
rules!
in points per game. Top 5 tight end in points per game 2016.
Yeah.
Shout out. Jack Doyle.
Now, Jack Doyle is somebody who, he's going to get looks throughout the game when he's healthy. But he needs volume in order to perform, at least from my point of view. Is he going to get the volume every single game? No. This week he took, 6 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown. It wasn't pretty for any of these tight ends, really. And it rarely is. But is Jack Doyle somebody that is worth picking up and playing, or at least keeping on your rosters to see what happens, as the season progresses?
I did it because I literally had no one else. I did it because I had no one else.
Jordan, were you saying that? If you have nobody else?
Said literally if you have 0 tight ends.
See?
So Thomas had 0 tight ends, and he couldn't play him.
Me and Jordan are the same people today.
Yeah. I mean, literally. No. I've invested in that Colts back or tight end at times in the Mo Alley Cox department, and let me tell you, it's painful. Stay away. If you're desperate, I mean, if your tight end is dead, to pick him up. But if your tight end is conscious and on a roster and out there moving around, I don't know. I mean, I think I'd keep what you got.
Although I'll say this, I might be more comfortable playing him than Noah Fant moving forward. So there's that. No joke. Noah Fant is on his way out for me. Unreal.
Yeah.
He should have gone off this week. It was a big disappointment that he did not. And he did have one, I believe, target that was vultured from him by the other
Yeah.
tight end, who was
Right
not
to
Albert
him.
O, by the way.
The guy slid right in front of him to take it. You can just see Fant's whole body was just so sad.
He
Like
was
he wanted to
so
high
sad.
five him, but at the same time he wanted to slap him in the head. It was wonderful.
I asked some verified account this week who I should start between my tight ends, and it was Gronkowski, Freiermuth, or Fant, and I didn't listen, so I started Gronk, and I came out on top.
I love
great.
it.
Gronk's the guy that you need to play every week now.
Yeah, Gronk smash Gronk.
2.5. Oh, yes, 5 healthy games on the year. 8, 5, 7, 8, and 10.
Yep. When he's healthy, he's
8,
dynamite.
4, 4, 6, and 7 for receptions, and then he has
Mhm.
the 4 touchdowns in the first 2 games. Like he is an animal when playing. Brady's going to throw.
He's the old man's security blanket. He's his avocado toast.
Oh my God.
His pistachio ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about another tight end who might be on the way out for some.
Quickly,
Kyle Pitts.
because this game's about to kick off.
Yep, we're about to end it. This is the last guy. Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is somebody who, we thought was about to break out, right? He ended up having 7 receptions for 163 yards, had 9 receptions for 119 yards, and a touchdown back in weeks 5, and then they had a bye in the week 7. And then Calvin Ridley announced that he was going to be taking some time away from football. Since then, Kyle Pitts, 2 receptions, 13 yards, 3 receptions, 62 yards, 4 receptions, 60 yards, 3 receptions, 29 yards, 2 receptions, 26 yards against Jacksonville. I mean, what's happening with Kyle Pitts? And should you be looking for other options to play as they face off up against Tampa Bay, Carolina again, San Francisco? Detroit is actually decent up against tight ends, believe it or not. They're pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then Buffalo, this is not a fun schedule looking forward. Is Kyle Pitts almost like a must sit at this point? I'm not saying drop him, but is he a must sit at this point moving forward? Teams have started to double team him. He has seen the most amount of double coverages of any wide receiver or tight end in the NFL. I think I read somewhere that he saw 31% of his snaps in double coverage over the past 4 or 5 weeks since Calvin Ridley, announced he was stepping away. So
yeah, there's not much you can do.
What's up?
Well, they need literally anyone else. They need anyone else to do something. I'm playing Kyle Pitts anyway because there's no tight end in the league that can take a 4-yard ball for 80 yards, no question. Right? So you're definitely playing. One, Matt Ryan's been absolute booty cheeks. What are you looking at me like that for?
You said there's only one tight end, but you forgot to name Hawkinson.
What did you just say to me?
I just know you hate Hawkinson a ton, so I wanted to bring Hawkinson into the argument.
Remember when TJ Hawkinson was the absolute must be drafted, gonna usurp everyone else at the top of the tight end ranks?
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
He's tight end 3 in PPR.
Gronk smash.
He's tight end 3. How can you say that he's not doing great as a tight end 3?
He's a bust.
Let's look at how he's tight end 3 if you want to. 8 receptions in the first 2 games. Then he had 8, 6, 10. Fantastic. He has 3 touchdowns on an offense that's absolutely completely stagnant in one game where he wasn't even the dude. He's unathletic, so there's that. Yeah.
He has an elite athlete score. All right, we're not getting into this right now because we got a game to get onto. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody else that we need to talk about for this past week? Is there anybody else that you want to bring up as like a bonus play or something to look out for tonight?
I am so excited to see the Cleveland backfield healthy again, even though it is against my Ravens. And then we also get the Lamar to Hollywood connection tonight, where we talked about a scoring lull so far in wide receiver and quarterback. Those are 2 players who can blow the roof off of that. So I'm interested to see where we go and how it's done. These 2 teams hate each other. Lamar can do anything, but Baker's just bad enough to keep him in the game. So we'll see where it goes.
Thomas.
Sorry, I was just scoffing at TJ Hawkinson's speed score.
Shocking.
I'm looking forward to seeing Baker continue to do Baker things and be an absolute dumpster fire in Superflex Dynasty formats. Yep.
All right.
That's what I'm looking forward to. He's unusable in fantasy football. Unusable.
All right. So on this note, let's go ahead and get out of
Real
here.
football.
First, I want to give a huge shout out, of course, to Fantasy Points. Fantasy Points is out there providing some of the best statistical analysis and items that no other websites offer. Like, I mean, you can find some of the best content over there and statistics to base your lineups off of. And if you use 21 DHH10, once again, that's 21 DHH10 at fantasypoints.com, you will actually receive a discount. So go check it out. Use promo code 21DHH10 over there at fantasypoints.com. Thank you guys for listening once again. Appreciate y'all. Hopefully Tyler is watching currently. If not, we're going to be sitting here very awkwardly. But thank you all for tuning in.
Oh, don't worry. I can do live
weeks.
commentary on the Ravens game until he
Go
goes
Ravens.
off if you want to. I'd happily do live trashing of Baker Mayfield. Any chance I get the opportunity to absolutely bombard one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, I absolutely will.
You and Colin Cowherd.
Dude's horrendous. People are still saying he's a buy.
You know what's going to be funny is we're going to sit here and we're going to come back in like 45 minutes, Jordan, and Thomas is just going to be talking and commentating on this game.
I'm going to be commentating on the game until he goes live. I got to do it for the people. I got to do it for the people.
And that's what we really want.
Yeah, that's what it is. Although the funniest thing about this game, 100%, is going to be that for all the trash talk and how bad Baker Mayfield has played this year, he's going to throw for 400 yards today to like a fifth string checkout boy. Because that's how an AFC
and a
North
pick
go
late in the game to throw it all away. Or a fumble.
God, I hope so.
It's the fumbled snap. Just
The guy